Hello, Kotlin Conf. Second last talk of the day. How do you feel? Overloaded? Learning a lot? So welcome to my talk. It's up there, yes. Compose, draw, speedrun, reloaded. I am Maia Grotepass. I work at Kanto, and a shout out to my third row Kanto besties. Thanks for being here. So the title is Compose, Draw, Speedrun, Reloaded. When I put the CFP up, I knew I wanted to do something with hot reload, and I knew I wanted to do something with Compose, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be. And then I built up the talk, and I will show you what I built. There are no slides. There is a repo. So what I'm going to do here is I am in the IDE. Let me just go into a mode where you can hopefully see better. Let's see. 5.1. No. Control tab. 5.1. And then take it down. What I've got here is a Compose desktop app, and it's running hot reload. I didn't run it out of the IDE because I was worried, what if my IDE crashes on me? Because what I want to do is, I have this here, I have the command line, and I'm running hot reload here. Because what I want to do during the whole of the talk, I'm going to do a bunch of things, and we are going to keep tally, and we're going to see here how many times did it successfully reload. Now, if it crashes, which it might, because I don't think I have the latest versions, then we'll have to keep the tally and add it up in the end. Hopefully, if it crashes, we get an error message, which I can screen capture, and then the hot reload people can figure out why it crashed. So we're starting off with this little app. It's got a place for me to put demos, and it's got a hello world. And this hello world is in a composable called the look. Okay, what is this about? Most of these things I'm going to do with, oh, that looks horrible. Let's see if we can click. Is it vaporwave? So what I decided to do was take a topic like vaporwave. Vaporwave is something that originated in 2010. It was a music genre. People were calling it a music genre, but it was also like a cultural phenomenon. And what it was doing is it was remixing things and remixing music and music out of the 80s. But you might know what vaporwave looks like, and this is not vaporwave, right? It's just a white screen with black letters. The thing about vaporwave that made it so interesting, even though it was designated a music genre, it had a very, very specific aesthetic. So I decided what I will do is I will try and recreate that vaporwave aesthetic in Compose Hot Reload, and we will see how far we get. So I have another, and we'll fix it again. Is it 2010? It isn't 2010. 15 years ago, it was 2010. So vaporwave is 15 years old. It was supposed to, from the name vaporwave, disappear, but it hasn't. People are referencing it all the time. In fact, I would argue that the current Kotlin colors with these fading colors with the pastels could even be a throwback to vaporwave. I'm going to have to reformat all the time. So, what does vaporwave look like? All right, I'm going to flick over here into my README. So I made this repo. You can find it at Maia Today Vapor. I'll share the link later. And I've got a README, and I had a deep look at what vaporwave is. And I had a look at the aesthetic, and I made myself a laundry list. We'll start with a blank page. We need a tastefully curated palette. We need some quirky fonts. We need a triangle vanishing floor. So I have a list here of things that I want to put into vaporwave. Okay. But why is it even relevant? So here is some comments that pull from the deep research. I'm not going to go through the details. You can look at the repo and have a look at this. Which brings me to the next thing. We're on the second last talk of the day, and you can play this talk three ways. You can decide, I've had enough code, I've had enough Kotlin. I will look at the side and just watch the pretty pictures. That's easy mode. You can also play it in normal mode, in which case, when I say I want a triangle, you can think, how would I do a triangle? Maybe I'd use the canvas or I use a gradient or whatever. Imagine how you would code it. I code it. You compare what I've done. And then if there's something that you don't know or you didn't know, make yourself a list of things that you don't know. The third way you can play this is hard mode. That's for the nitpicking people, the people who love to do code reviews. They can look at the code and spot the inefficiencies, because there are lots of inefficiencies, because I used AI to generate some of this code. And for that, what you need to do is either write me an issue on the repo or propose a pull request on the repo. So let's look at our carefully curated palette. So I'm just going to comment this in, and we should get the colors. So I opted for pastel colors. I could have also done the brightly colored, but I opted for the pastel colors. And noted you need the pink. That pink is very famous, and that cyan color is also very famous. And now let's see the quirky fonts. The quirky fonts, I found them on Google Fonts, and we're just going to add them. So why am I doing it like this? I'm commenting code in, because I want to not have had the code there before and just comment in a line. I want the code to come in all the way, because I want to push hot reload to its max and see if it can manage. Okay, so I've picked Rubik Glitch, Monotone, Neon de Fleur, and Dot Gothic. So let's just have a quick look here and see. Yes, we have successfully reloaded 6 times. Okay. Now, this little app has another mode that I showed you, which is this demo mode, which is also a white page. Let me take a sip of water. And the demo mode lives in a composable called Solo. So I need to go back here and go to Solo. Right. So here you have the laundry list ready for us to try. So we don't need this text anymore. We can comment that out. We do need a Solo triangle. This one, happily, is already there. And here I have a triangle. Okay. How would you do the triangle? Let's see. Okay. It's just canvas, paths, brushes, draw path. And it's red. Why is it red? It might be because I didn't have the include on the other side. Solo triangle. Yes, include. And we have a triangle. Okay. Now going back to Solo, let's look at a vanishing floor. Vanishing floor. Okay, now what I need to do for vanishing floor is look for the place to comment the piece in, and I'm looking for vanishing floor. Okay, the vanishing floor is interesting because I needed to draw the grid. You'll see what it looks like in a moment. And then go back to Solo vanishing floor, and we should see it here. So this vanishing floor, it has 2 modes. You can either have it in black and white mode, or you can have it in this pink grid, and you can change its vanishing point. Okay, and what does vanishing floor look like underneath the hood? Again, we have a canvas, and then we have some really interesting projection things to make these blocks work. The pink version just draws lines. The one with the tiles actually draws little blocks of black and white. And this is the first hard mode point. So anybody who's playing this in hard mode, this is an obvious place where we can look at some ways to optimize this. But we're on a speed run, so we're not going to do any optimizations. Now, any good vaporwave visual needs some dolphins. The dolphins are just PNGs that are pulled in. So it's really just images that are pulled in. And we are red for the same reason. Not red yet. And it should be green. No. So we have some pink and some cyan dolphins. These are just images I grabbed from an AI. Okay. We're walking down the list quite quickly. Another characteristic of vaporwave is that they have these Greek statues, or Roman statues, or classical statues. Uncomment some imports. Marble statue has nothing in it yet. And this, again, should just give us an image from a bitmap. Not really interesting yet, but we're building. Back to Solo. So why did vaporwave use those statues? It was a puzzling thing to me. It's not clear. They're very ambiguous, the way that the vaporwave imagery works. I think it's to do with ideas of beauty that clash with the reality and with displacing of those images and making a dreamlike idea. But you can read the report in the README if you want to know detail. To contrast with those classical images, we need some modern tech. Except it's not that modern, it's tech that comes from the 80s. And so I'm going into cassette. And this again, images. Have I got everything? Oh wait, I need to do this. Cassette 1. More images. And I'll see. Cassettes and VHS images. Okay. Should we see how many times we've reloaded? 12 times. Okay. Now let's do something interesting with these PNGs. Because the PNGs they're easy enough to just load in. Let's do something interesting with them. Okay. I still don't have the weird color filters. Image from path. Let me put the color filters in for you. And this is where it gets interesting. And this is, in fact, where compose hot reload becomes quite useful. Have I not got the imports here? Okay, that one. Stable. Okay. Let's see, is this working now? Not yet. There we are. We have one missing thing. No. Okay. So what I've got here is a blur modifier, which is what's making this blur over here. And this, you can see here, I've shifted the colors. And how this is interesting is because there's a function that you can use. You can set up a color filter. And the way it works, it has this matrix where you can take the R and G and B channels and the alpha channels, and you can make this new RGBA color using this matrix. And this is if you just wanted to do an inverse color matrix, that's what it would look like. And this is if you use other values. And now here you can actually get the benefit of compose hot reload, because you can start fiddling with these numbers and then see how that changes. And this interactive way of working is where compose hot reload really shines. I'm still missing my layered one. Okay, I've got two of them, the one on top of the other, and we should get, and it's flipped to the other side over here. Okay. So now, what about a matrix gradient? Now, there was a guy who made some really cool code in a gist for a matrix gradient, and I'm going to apply it to this composable. And it's in the look. And over here, I'm going to change the font color to be a different one. And I'm going to put in this matrix gradient. And I need to go to mesh gradient and uncomment everything. And we should see it. Now, so you can see here, I have a mesh gradient in the back. Again, the benefit of hot reload would be that I can go into that mesh gradient, oops, mesh gradient. And here you can see this is what describes the mesh gradient. This is how the mesh gradient is built up with all these lists of values. And in fact, if I change this one to be the color points, and I change that one back, I should get a different mesh gradient here now. And I do. Okay. Okay. Now we need a palm tree. So I will uncomment the palm and find the palm file, neon palm, put the palm tree in. How did I make the palm tree? This file over here, this string over here, I pulled from this SVG. So if I'm opening this SVG 3, I need files, B3, you can see that's what the palm looks like. And that string is actually this piece over here, which are the points. And again, here's a place for the people who are playing on hard mode to have a look and see how we can make things more efficient. So let's go back to the neon palm. So here it pulls that string, it builds a path, it puts the path to the palm, and on the canvas it draws the path of that palm. We need to go back here. Solar palm, palm, is this working? We have a neon palm. Okay, I don't know why this happens. It takes about 10 seconds, or it takes a while, and then the neon palm appears. And definitely it can be optimized, but I don't quite understand. And it does that even if I'm not using hot reload. Okay, we have a palm tree. Now we need some glitch text. Okay, I need to put these in. I need to call this. And some of this. We see if this works. Right, we have some glitch text. Let's just take a look at our reload count. 21 successful reloads. Okay, great. Okay. Okay. And none of these talks would be worth anything without a shader. And this shader that I'm showing you now, I have it on good authority that this is actually a terrible shader, but I copied it from someone else's repo. In fact, I copied it from the Joule demo. Hollow, I want the files. Solar hollow foil. I think it's called hollow foil. Oh no, it's called foil shader. Consistent naming, people. Okay. And what you can see here is an x-axis from the mouse, and it's applying this hollow foil shader. Again, a good place for compose hot reload is because this code here in the string, I don't really understand any of it, but I want to learn it. And probably the best way to learn this kind of thing is if you start messing with these numbers. If I start changing these numbers, I'm not going to do any of that now because I don't want to break it. But this would be a good way to, well, let's try something. I mean, I could arbitrarily change this 3 to 4 and then see what it does. And it did actually make some other change there. And so it would be a good way to explore shaders using hot reload. But one shader is probably not good enough. Why have only one shader if you can have two shaders? And with hot reload, we can have two shaders. Okay. Okay. And for this one, it's a glitch shader. So by changing things, I can get a glitch effect on my statue. Okay. But you probably want to know how all of these pieces are put together. What would it look like if you put all of these pieces together? I'm not going to go over the code, but I have another trick up my sleeve. And what we're going to do is, in Git here now, we're going to go git stash. And we're going to stash everything. And we're back to the blank screen. And I have prepared for you a script so that we can get a speed run and a time lapse of how this changes. But before I do that, let's just get the count again. Still 26. I wonder if that's not updating. And so how the speed run script works is like this. Every single one of those elements, I have a tag. This script I will find it for you and show it to you. Files, speedrun. For some other reason, I'm not finding it now. Never mind. This script will check out every single tag. And if I hit enter now, you should see the steps as they go through. Aha. Okay. I got the crash. All right. We're on the triangle. And here now I have another button. What this button does is, if you click on it, it's going to have a screen with all the pieces in it. I'm pressing enter for the next one. I've got the floor. I'm pressing enter for the next one. I've got the dolphins. I'm pressing enter for the next one. I have the statue. I'm pressing enter for the next one. I've got a sunset. Oh, I didn't show you the sunset. It's a circle with gradients, with stops, with transparent. I press enter again. I've got the tapes. I press enter again. I've got another statue that's been color shifted with a blur. I press enter again. I've got my mesh gradient in the background. I've got what did I get? Tapes, dolphins, text, the palm tree. This should be the foil shader. And that's the repo at the top. The way that these things are put together, they are just placed in a box. And so when you take this app and you resize it, you'll see how the things move around as the layouts change. And it was 26 last time. We probably had a few more. And I've got 13, another extra 13 on the run of the Compose hot reload screen. So we had a blank page. We had the palette. We had all of this. And if you wanted to do it yourself, there's information in this repo on exactly how to set up the hot reload and how to run it. And if you want to do further explorations of this repo, you can also listen to the original Flower Shop album on Bandcamp as background music or a Spotify playlist. Find all the Google fonts here. Find the information on the live templates. And over here, there should be some information on vaporwave. Okay. Am I at time? I am possibly. I have 10 minutes left. Is there any piece of code that you want to particularly look at, or do you have questions? Or will you just write me pull requests on my repo scrolling at the top? Do I see questions? Yes, I see a question. Oh, the sun code. I didn't show you the sun code. Yes, sure, I can show you the sun code. Sunset. Sunset. The sunset is a canvas with a brush. There are two versions of the sunset. There's a vertical gradient one that just fills the color. And then this one, the retro one, has these color stops. And the interesting thing here is, of course, you can change these. If you change these numbers, you should start seeing how these little lines change over there. So another good place to use the interactiveness of hot reload. To play with this. And again, circles, radiuses, and gradient brushes. Okay, any more?
I have another question. I apologize, I didn't see your talk from the beginning. I am interested on the KMP stuff, and I would like to ask you about your experiences with the differences in the canvas you get from Android and the one you get on the Compose, particularly like drawing text or things like that.
Okay, this is a Compose desktop app because the hot reload only works in Compose desktop. Another time I messed around with Android and Compose desktop and iOS. I didn't build any production apps in it. At that time, there were some issues with loading fonts and loading resources, but I do believe there's a library that deals with those fonts and resources itself. About actual rendering, I don't know. Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Yes, a question over there.
Just wait for the mic. I was curious to know what are you using to render the shaders, as I've never used shaders in Compose to see what that's about.
Okay. So I'll go to the foil shader, or let's go to the glitch shader. So this shader, I just went to Shader Toy, those Shader Toy box shaders, and I found one that looked simple enough that I liked, and I just copied it in. And here you set up a shade, you set up some shader code here, and it's this annotation just makes it so that this is GLSL shader code, and then there's at the bottom here, you can run you make a modifier, like a glitch modifier, and then you have a render effect, and then there's make a runtime shader, image filter, make a runtime shader with a shader builder. With this shader builder over here. There's a runtime effect, make a shader, and there's a shader builder that builds the shader. There are lots of examples of this. The shaders all look the same. If you look at if you compare the hollow foil and this glitch shader, they look the same. The things that are different about them is what's in here. Yeah? Okay. Any more? Nope. Okay, we can call it. Yes, one more. The palm tree. Yes, I can look at the palm tree. Neon palm. Okay, so here the palm tree, it has this string, which are the actual coordinates of the Bezier curves that I'm just pulling straight out of an SVG file. It doesn't work that well if you have a complicated SVG. It works well if you just have one that's got an outline path. And then over here, it's the canvas, and you're converting this path into an actual path object. The problem with this path is that it's scaled to be the size of what your SVG was. And so I have a function here from bounds to compose view that converts it to be filling the size of the box that it's in. Is that a sign that I must stop? Okay. Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you.